that's ISO.
Rack it up, I got a bit of the bank to make me a safe house. Shake it up, she got her hands on her knees and she bringing the cake out. Smoke it up, I got some gas, some packs, I'm up in the greenhouse. Ball it up, I'm with the gang, we taking shots off the rebound.
Welcome to Walking Out of Lockdown. I'm Mark Abouzeid, filmmaker, photojournalist, and culture specialist. And today I'm here with Victoria Primus. Victoria is a friend, but more than anything, she's a dancer and choreographer based in Vienna. She's done some very interesting things recently, both collaborations between science and education on planktons, which hopefully she'll tell us a bit about. And as a freelancer is having to deal with many of the issues we all have from lockdown. Good afternoon. It's good to see you again.
Good afternoon. Hello. Good to see you as well.
Good to see you. Now, let me start with the same question I ask everybody first. Let's go back to New Year's Day or the first week of New Year's. You know, what were your expectations for this coming year? What were you thinking personally, professionally? What was your mood?
Well, when I look back, my mood was very positive, full of strength and big expectations actually for 2020, because I have been working almost since Zita's birth. When she was 1 year old, I was working on getting back into my career and like exploring new adventures and stepping into this collaborative work of art and science. And in the last year, a lot of projects actually got a yes, so I could do it. So like in 2020, I had a few projects coming up. One with a school where I introduced my project of embodiment of scientific embodiment of scientific subjects like planets and plankton. I would have introduced to kids from 6 to 10, and they would have produced a whole artwork with 240 kids.
Oh, wow.
And that was one project, and then I had others going on. I was invited to 2 festivals with planetary oscillation embodiment, where I embody the different planets. I work with the sound designer Elena Shirin. She is now touring in America. She's a musician and sound designer, and we worked the last year to finally also reproduce and go back on stage together. And so these were my expectations, and I was super happy that finally things are getting more exciting for me in the dance world again, or in the art world, because it also took quite a while to get back. Not in shape, because in shape I was really fast, but getting back the network and
and I think we should point out, because I had neglected to in your introduction, you know, you are full-time mother of 2 young children. So getting back to it also means getting to a schedule where they're active enough that you can carve out some time to do these things.
Exactly. And I know myself, I have always a lot of energy, and I was quite successful in the last months to actually to work and also to care about them, like
let's talk about that. Okay, so that's New Year's. A couple months pass, and suddenly Vienna's closing schools. We're in lockdown. You have everybody at home. What was the impact? What was your experience of lockdown, positive and negative?
To be honest, it was a beautiful experience, because I was closer to my family again, and we dealt with the situation respectfully. Like we dealt with each other respectfully. There was a lot of family time and good family time, and cooking a lot, but also cleaning a lot. And of course, there's a routine which is from morning to evening, full of entertainment for kids, and it's exhausting. And I cannot really focus on anything else, which of course it's beautiful to have so much time with your loved ones, but before I had so much more time to dream and be visionary and
Sure.
go to training and meet people. And of course this suddenly just was was cleaned. How to say? Yeah.
But you did make some changes also in your work. I saw some things online, some courses you've been introducing. Talk to me about them.
Of course, I mean, I had to, because as I mentioned before, the project with the school, of course, it would have started in the first week of Corona. My workshop with the schools would have started, and obviously this didn't happen. And then firstly, I was like, oh my God. But then, as I'm lucky to have a filmmaker at home as well, who has a perfect equipment, because also his work of course got cut because he would have traveled a lot, like this.
Mhm.
And then I yeah, as I always do, I start to move. It's my way. I have to move, I have to train, and I started to train at home. And because I teach in a conservatory as well, they asked me to do videos. So this was the impulse to start the my YouTube channel, to boost my YouTube channel. So I started the video Ballet Back on Track, which I was super happy to start, because now I'm gonna actually continue to do this. Jetzt nicht, Schatz. My kids.
Yeah, that's Zita, no?
Zita, yeah. Danke, Zita. Basically, do I'm gonna make a few videos going back to my roots, because my roots are ballet.
Yeah.
And to stay fit and stay healthy at home, I started this video. Yeah,
Okay,
video
now
project.
we're starting to see lockdown wrap up a bit. I don't know if your kids are back to school yet. The children here, actually, the kindergarten's even open, which surprised me. But let's say last day of lockdown, you're standing at your door, the children are at school, everyone, you can do anything you want. What is the first thing you would want to do? What is the first thing that comes to mind?
Wow, I guess the first thing which already came to my mind is to do nothing. because I'm because I'm always with them, and now I'm with my grandparents, I get a little bit more space to think, because I really need time to think things through, how I'm going to continue as well. Because obviously, as you mentioned before, we in the cultural scene, this is going to continue for much longer. I have to reposition myself. I mean, I'm not going to give up on what I have done all the months and whatever before, but I think the first thing I'm going to do when I bring the kids next week to the kindergarten, I'm going to just see what happens.
Just have your own schedule.
Yes, just leave me alone, and I'm going to see what's going to happen.
I love that. Most people are afraid of that right this second. I just want to have a second to look. I just want to look.
Just to walk around, feel the air without anybody else wanting something from me.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I completely understand that. And, let's talk about the next part. Yeah, where lockdown's wrapping up. We don't know what's ahead of us, but obviously for all of us in the cultural sector, especially the performance sector, things have changed. What are your What are your thoughts? What are your fears? What are your hopes?
I mean, of course, you're right, especially in dance and the performative sector, with all the distance and not touching each other and stuff. There's a lot of change. And of course, creative minds, they're always going to find creative solutions. Um, for my projects, on one hand, I worked on this planetary oscillation embodiment where I worked directly with the sound designer, but I made a solo part, so I could go deeper into that, which I'm gonna do, and maybe I'm gonna focus a little bit more on solo work, which I've wanted to do for a long time, but I I was always a little bit afraid of it as well, or
Mhm.
distracted. And I actually do like this online teaching. I also do the teaching with small kids and like also with grown-ups. So I think I'm going to continue with that. Um, I know, like for example, I was invited to Bozen to this huge festival, this dance festival. We are not sure if it's going to happen or not. There's no answer
Yeah.
yet,
Yeah.
but maybe it's not going to happen.
It's,
And
you don't know at this point because it's interesting. I mean, if you asked me a week ago, 10 days ago, I would have just said, don't even, just forget it. Just forget it. But there are so many people that want to get back to something. I'm surprised. I've actually seen a few culture calls for actual events, and I keep thinking, how are you still going? But they renewed the call, which means it's definitely still at least on the table. Let me ask you, because also listening to you, I hear how you're already adapting, you're already thinking, and especially a couple like you have a filmmaker in the house, as you say, you're a dancer, freelancers. Do you think that freelancers are more adept at situations like this? Do you think that the nature of our usual life, or do you think that's just the people I happen to know?
yeah, I think that we are just used to adapting. I mean, I feel like a chameleon all my life. And I also like that. That's why I guess I also chose that because it's exciting. But obviously, you have to reinvent yourself many times. And I also think that politicians shouldn't forget about us. And I think also that they have to say something, they have to make things clear, and they have to care about freelancers and people who work in a different field under different circumstances, because it's important what we're doing. And all of us, it's super important for every society. And what would a society be without the culture? And
Yeah.
I think that to adapt is good. I think it's exciting also. Of course, you have to always ask yourself under which circumstances. If it comes to payments and income, it's always the same problem. I mean, now I can also say it. I get state funding. Otherwise, I would be not able to pay anything.
Yeah, I
So
must admit, I'm amazed. I've lived in 35 countries. I've never seen a country move so quickly to at least give some support at some level as Austria. I've just been amazed, and they continue to roll out and expand programs slowly to capture more people. Um, I was talking to an audio engineer and asking him about the economic situation and how it was for him. And he said, quite frankly, he said, look, I have no money, and I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm not sure that would have been any different if there was Corona or not, because this is the nature of my work. Do you think we're better? Or one, do you feel that's true? Are you feeling some sense of uh, How do you feel about that? Let me ask you that. Yeah.
I mean, I can agree to a certain extent. Of course, like for me, some months are better, some are worse. The when Corona crisis started, March to August were my best months this year. So I would have like finally have a quite good income to pay everything for my family. Um, Also, additionally, the project of my boyfriend would have really started, and there would have been a better time up, like come better time, and financially. Yeah, his project, he would have traveled more. He would have also a better income, and then me. That would have been cool, because you work, like you work 1 year or more on a project, and then finally you see the results. And this obviously got yeah, it got cancelled. Um, yeah, we are also better in adapting, and our lifestyle, we don't have like a luxurious lifestyle, but obviously I also live in a flat I want to live in, and not in a black hole. And I have to pay, and yeah, I mean, my family helps also, but not everybody has that, and of course some other people, they have a better situation financially, but we have to see for all of us, no? So
But I think you also brought up an important point I find as a freelancer, okay? Because, as you know, as soon as Italy shut down, every project we got canceled. 2 years in the Amazon, just
ah,
gone, gone. Um, but listening to my friends who still were getting some salary, something, and they just couldn't possibly imagine how they were going to get through the month. And so I talked to them. I was like, well, what's your basic cost? They said, oh, between mortgage and all this, I have to have 3,000 a month. And I'm like, and he goes, at 3,000, I'm poor. I'm like, at 3,000, I'm taking holidays, okay? Because one of the aspect of a freelancer, I think, is quality of life, but also making sure that in the downtimes you can keep going with what you've got.
mm,
Yes, we often get help. Yes, we often raise money. But it's managing, I think, both the income side, but also what you need as
mm,
opposed to what you want.
exactly. And I also think, to be honest, like personally, I don't need so much.
Mm.
Like, I, let's say, I have a car and I think the car is too big. I want a smaller car. That's already for a while. Nothing happens. That's one example. It's like I actually would prefer now to go by bike again,
Mm.
and also before Corona. But then obviously it's also good to visit some people with the car. So I don't know. Sometimes it's easy to say I don't need that, but then sometimes it's helpful, and that's the
Oh
same.
yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I think there's basic necessities each of us has, but I do think there's a lot of extra that people think they need, but really
Of
they
course,
just want.
no, of course.
Look, when it comes to film equipment, I've got a list sitting on my wall. Every time I can get a little money, I buy equipment,
Yeah,
but
I know that.
I'm wearing the same shirt that I've had for 5 years or something.
Mm,
It depends where your priorities are. All
of
right,
course.
let's get back to a bit the pandemic itself. Okay. Um, what are your feelings about how your culture, how the Austrian culture lived lockdown?
Well, they behaved really well, I guess. Um, how we experienced it, like we were like us as a family, we stayed at home, we didn't really go out. I think generally people took it seriously. Of course, you always have some people, they don't really believe it, but I also believe that this helped, and it didn't explode because of that, because people really stayed at home. And I mean, to stay at home and under circumstances like I had, or yeah, or others, they have
Yeah.
good circumstances, some others they don't have good circumstances if they have too small flats. But it was nice to stay at home. I felt good with staying at home, like a bit more, have less to do. If I really look at it, my time schedule was so full. Like Sophie knows me for a long time.
Mm.
I like to do a lot of things, but then on the other hand, it for sure would have been exhausting. Of course, beautiful, but also exhausting.
Yeah.
And like this now, it was exhausting in a different way, but yeah, I could spend it with my family. So
Yeah, which I guess makes me ask the next question. Is there anything you're going to miss about lockdown?
yeah, well, maybe because as I said, I also like the basics, like to not see so many people, to not I also do like that, to be with your loved ones and having not so many expectations to myself,
Mm-hmm.
because I've always had that. Yeah, I have big expectations, and I need to be successful in a way, and like we all do. Yeah, in a way, some people more, some people less, but I always want to be successful in everything I do. So this took a little bit away the pressure of me, but on the other hand, I missed the other things as well. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, of course.
contradictory.
No, of
It's
course. That's normal. That's normal. I mean, I've found because I'm very much like you, I can feel I can keep working. If I'm excited about what I'm doing, I just keep going. But I could wake up and not feel like doing anything, and that was okay. Oh, it's
yeah.
lockdown. Yeah, fine. You want to take a day today? Just take the day. You want to watch Project Runway all day long and go, who put these colors together? Fine, whatever. I had a freedom, which I guess because I'm a freelancer, I should always have, but somehow you just don't give yourself. All right, what are your fears? What do you fear for the future from here?
Well, with all the pandemic and all these circumstances we are in, and this like a new normality, and like keeping this distance and the masks, and how long this is gonna actually last, and is there gonna be a second wave, and
Mhm.
how is it gonna turn out globally and economically, and in the future is it gonna worse, or is it gonna be stable, or it's gonna stabilize, and how is it gonna be with international projects, because I've always been interested in working more internationally, as well as my boyfriend. And yeah, of course, these are not yet like big fears, but I think about that as well.
Sure.
Like, I'm also trying not to make myself too uncomfortable about the circumstances. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. Like, I don't yeah. I don't want to have too much fear.
No, no, of course. And that's healthy, I think. What about your kids? Did they understand? Did you explain anything to them? Did they ask why, mommy and daddy are home all the time, or how did that work?
Well, they really well, they know about it. We showed them videos. We talked a lot about it. When they play with each other, corona crisis involved in their game, in their
Of
play.
course. Kids will make a game out of anything.
Wow, yeah, beautiful, like big monster corona and things like this. But they I think they also, on one hand, they enjoyed to be so much with us. On the other hand, obviously, they really, really miss their friends. They miss kindergarten many times, although we did a lot of funny things with them as well. They said like, yeah, but of course we miss our friends, and they need this social contact with their tiny people.
Yeah.
Mm. But I don't feel that they suffered. I
Mhm.
don't think, like,
No,
I
I
think,
don't.
yeah.
I don't have young children anymore. Mine are in lockdown in other places.
Mm.
Um, but I've always loved kids. I've always spent the bulk of my life with children. And I must admit, this was one of the situations where I was like, okay, how do you deal with this? Because you definitely don't want them to fear the world, to fear everything. But you also, I think, with children, you always owe them an explanation or something they can handle. And I personally thinking about having to explain this to a child just it makes me emotional.
Of course, the situation is super emotional. I mean, I have two little, like, small children. I mean, they're 4 and 5, and it's a different scenario if they're like 10 to 15.
Oh yeah,
In a
of course.
teenager years, it's gonna be different. I also was in um, continuous contact with a 15-year-old boy. I give ballet dance lessons over Zoom.
Mhm.
And like, I think with him, the ballet helped him a lot, to stay stable and in his mind, because obviously he couldn't go out and meet anybody, and he's anyway already special.
Yeah,
And
exactly. He's a 15-year-old boy doing ballet. He's already unique.
exactly. And so he always told me, I'm so happy when I can go out again. And but then on this in the yeah at the same time, he was a bit afraid of it as well,
Mm.
to go out again. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel likewise. I mean, I was inside for a full 2 months. Even Sophie did the shopping because of my
Yeah.
predilection for pneumonia. And so the first time I went out to the shopping center, there were just too many people.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
really felt uncomfortable. It's taking me a couple times to go out and just feel comfortable, and
Mhm.
everybody's behaving. But it's just the energy.
Yes,
It's
yes, I have the same.
uh,
I can actually deal with a lot of different energies, but it changed with my age as well. And of course, now with the quarantine is this, yeah, with the lockdown is the same. I When I go out, I was out on Saturday to go to different places. I came home, I almost wanted to sleep.
yeah.
Too much impressions.
And I can
Yeah.
understand that at your advanced age, these things are more difficult at my age. Yeah, it must be horrible with the walker, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not that old.
No, you're not. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying that 5 years ago, I was in Berghain in the biggest club dancing with everybody, and now I get afraid after I go out on Saturday.
Sure. Okay, now let's put it in context here. Okay.
That's what I mean.
Tootsie, tootsie, tootsie.
Yeah. I was not afraid at that time.
Oh no, 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 no. And I don't think it's fear. I think it's getting used to, as you say, a new normal.
Yeah, it's not being, yeah, it's not afraid.
Mm.
Let's see how it's going to continue.
Yeah.
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 But I'm very positive about the future. I always try to be positive.
Hey, my children hate me because they could tell me their foot was cut off. And after like taking care of them, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is, the positive side of this is you only
Yeah.
have to buy one shoe at a time or whatever. And they're like, no, Dad, there's nothing positive this time. It's the apocalypse, but the positive side is
Exactly.
you don't have to worry about the apocalypse anymore. It's here.
Yes, I know. But it's the bright side. You have to always look at the bright side.
Well, look, I think there's two ways people do that. I think there are those people that try and convince themselves that everything's rosy. And I think that's actually very unhealthy. I come
Yeah.
much more
Yeah.
from, I think, my Lebanese background, which is I start from reality or even a little pessimism. And
Yeah.
then I find a reason why it's still worth doing it. Or I want to make the day better. I choose to make my day better, even though I don't expect it's going to be.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's just like I can sit here miserable because you're all right, it's horrible. Or I can laugh, or I can make a joke, or I can go play a game, or play with some children, or do something, anything to make my day better. And
Yeah, I mean, of course, every day is different, no? And I
yeah,
mean, you don't have to fool yourself, obviously, but I mean, I think I also try to keep the positive because I think my nature is like that, but also because of the kids. I think
Hmm.
they don't how do you say they why should they take my pain,
No,
because
exactly. I
but
agree.
I have to
Uh,
also keep on doing things like with a positive energy also for
Sure.
them, not just for myself. So
We're going to wrap up. Our time's almost out. I want to thank you a lot.
Rack it up, I got a bit of the bank to make me a safe house. Shake it up, she got her hands on her knees and she bringing the cake out. Smoke it up, I got some gas, some packs, I'm up in the greenhouse. Ball it up, I'm with the gang, we taking shots off the rebound.